The following program is a SUTV student production. The views expressed are not necessarily those of Salisbury University, the University System of Maryland, its regents, administration, officers, employees, or representatives.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the time out to join us, Robby.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks, Eli.
On Tuesday, Dr. Eschbach held a campus consortium, and she talked about some of the things going on in the school, as well as some of the things that took place that have to do with the university in the past legislative session. Can you talk a bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. So the president earlier in the semester actually held a similar consortium assembly where we bring the entire campus community together, that's faculty, staff, and students, really to talk about issues that are affecting the campus community. Earlier this semester we talked about the budget and the reason for the mid-year tuition increase. And then after the legislative session, the president wanted to brief the campus community on the result of the legislative session, so where we ended up on the budget. So she does these from time to time. They're very effective. The president, really believes that, she wants to speak right to the people, to the campus community, and to give them an opportunity, as you saw yesterday, to speak their mind if they've got issues that they want to bring to the campus community's attention. So it was a really good dialogue between the president and the campus community, and I think we'll continue to do those in the future.
What about the legislative session? What are some things that came out?
That was the number one issue that we wanted to brief the campus community on. This was a particularly interesting legislative session for us. In January 2015, the early part of January of this year, the O'Malley administration had realized that we were facing a pretty significant structural deficit. And so the Board of Public Works took action to cut the state budget by about $400 million. So that impacted the University System of Maryland by about $40.7 million. So then, conversely, Governor Hogan gets inaugurated into office. We still have a structural deficit of about $802 million. So he proposes a budget which, in effect, cut the University System of Maryland by $47 million. While he did technically give us an increase to our reduced appropriation as O'Malley was leaving office, there was still a gap for rising mandatory costs, which totaled to about $47 million. That's like insurance, retirement benefits, stuff like that, things that we have to pay that we just weren't given appropriations to cover. So we have to cover those things out of our own pocket, and effectively the cut to Salisbury University was about $1,021,000, and so that was big for us. We lobbied very, very hard with the legislators to try to reduce that amount, that effective cut to the University System of Maryland. The other big issue was the governor had decided to rescind the 2% cost of living adjustment, which was granted in early January to state employees. So effectively, by July 1st, that 2% would be pulled back from individual salaries, so they'd actually see a reduction in pay. So state employees weren't too happy about that, and the president made that very clear, and that was one of the things that we lobbied for as well. So the legislature passed a budget that effectively maintained that $47 million cut, which is about $1 million to the university. So we have had to come up with a spending plan to cover the effect of that cut. And we take money from construction management, utilities. We cut operating budgets, so paper, stuff like that. We have to reduce our ability to pay for those things. We also are in this hiring freeze right now, and that's beginning to thaw as positions that are especially critical to this institution. People retire. We have to replace certain things if we want to keep students able to graduate on time so we can offer the courses. So that's been a challenge, but we've come up with a way to manage that cut effectively. And as far as the cost of living adjustment, we fought really, really hard. The legislature actually fenced off funds for the cost of living adjustment. But because in the state of Maryland, the governor has so much authority over the budget, if he decides that he doesn't want to spend that money, he doesn't have to. So while the legislature carved out about $200 million to fund this 2% increase to state employee salaries, he can decide not to spend that money, and it reverts to the general fund and it pays down the structural deficit. So it was an interesting legislative session, financially speaking. As far as our capital budget is concerned, we were able to maintain the full $53 million that we needed to keep the academic commons on track. There were two separate attempts by sister institutions, I won't name them, that were trying to claim that some of that money should have been diverted to some of their capital projects as well. So we were very successful in maintaining that $53 million to finish the construction of the library. As far as the legislation is concerned, the hot button issue this year was sexual assault. And fortunately, Salisbury University is at the head of the pack, as the chancellor likes to say, because we've done a ton in that space. We've done a lot to update our sexual assault policies, and actually all the things that the legislation that we came out with, House Bill 571, what it actually does is stuff that we're already doing at Salisbury University. So we really came out ahead on those issues. So other issues, you know, we had a proposal for community colleges to offer 4-year degrees. And so that was defeated. We didn't support that. Obviously, we respect the integrity of the public 4-year institutions to be able to offer 4-year degrees in the state. And then there was other proposals as well. But we made out really well this legislative session, all things told, except for the reduction of funding that we saw. But we're working to try to mitigate the effects of that as best as we can.
Going back to the reduction of funding, how will that in fact affect the students? Will it affect students, and whether it be affecting course offerings because of a hiring freeze, or affecting how much they have to pay in tuition and fees? How does that going to come down to the students?
And that's something that we're watching very, very closely, especially as faculty are retiring, and we need more faculty for certain courses so that students can graduate on time, especially as certain programs become more in demand versus other ones. We're trying to take a strategic look at, you know, where we're placing these different PIN positions, these faculty positions, to actually offer the courses. So it's something we're paying very, very, very close attention to. As far as the tuition increase, you know, over the past several years, we've had 6% increase in tuition, and that happens, you know, in fall semester. This 2% mid-year increase was a rarity. We don't do that very often, and we don't anticipate it happening anytime soon. But this coming fall semester, instead of a 6% increase for Salisbury University students, we're anticipating a 5% increase, and that's system-wide. So that's all institutions are increasing their tuition by 5%, and some of those funds will help mitigate the effects of the cut that we received. Other ways that students will be impacted, we did reduce some funding to financial aid. Unfortunately, we've dumped a lot, well, not unfortunately, but we've dumped a lot of money into financial aid over the past couple of years. And so we're reducing the financial aid appropriation, which is several million, by $100,000. But we're trying to hold those students who have need-based who are need-based students, we're trying to hold them harmless throughout that process, and trying to reallocate funds from merit-based versus need-based funds. So,
talk to me a bit about what the school is doing, or what you know that students are doing at the school when it comes to what happened in Baltimore.
Yeah.
I understand that Morgan State made a call regarding additional police officers during this time of turmoil. Can you talk a bit about that?
Sure, absolutely, and that was an issue that actually came up at the consortium meeting yesterday. You know, certainly we're very concerned about the events in Baltimore, but it speaks to a larger issue that there are some issues that we need to work through as a campus community, and we are certainly open and support peaceful protest, and we want to support our sister institution, Morgan State University, during this time. There was a request for our police officers to go over and assist, and we have our police officers on alert. We haven't sent any over as of yet, but if the need should arise, you know, we certainly want to be helpful and supportive to Morgan State University. My understanding is this coming Saturday at 9 a.m., Dr. James King, who is the advisor to the student chapter of NAACP, is going to be heading up to Washington Boulevard, a pig town in Baltimore, and help with some issues up there, and cleaning up the area and planting flowers, you know, doing those types of things, cleaning up litter. And we're very supportive of those efforts, and are really appreciative for the students that want to help out with that as well.
Tonight, the community of Salisbury and Wicomico County has organized what they're calling a die-in in parts of downtown. The mayor mentioned that he reached out to institutions such as Salisbury University and UMES. Can you talk about the university's involvement in that? Was it just a heads up? Are you expecting a lot of students to be involved in that?
It was just a heads up. My understanding is that some students will be downtown. There's been publicity all over the university campus today to try to encourage students to come out. So I anticipate that there will be a university presence, a student presence down there. And we're very supportive of those peaceful protests. I mean, as I said earlier, you know, there are some issues in our society that we still need to work through, and I think that these riots have pointed to that, and I think that we need to facilitate that campus conversation.
Another thing that we've been following, of course, is the fire service agreement between the city of Salisbury and Wacomico County. And of course, a few weeks back or a couple weeks back, the mayor at a press conference made the statement that come July 1st, if no agreement was reached, that service would be cut off. Now, there's been some back and forth now whether that would be a drawback or not, but with so many students living outside of the city limits of Salisbury, and the majority of main campus being outside of the city limits of Salisbury, what has the school been doing to advocate or to push for a deal or to make sure that students are still protected, that the university is still protected, whether that be, protected in general, or just protected from a longer wait time for these services?
Exactly. And Eli, this issue is very significant to me. I'm very concerned about this and the brinksmanship between the city and the county on this issue. And I've been in regular contact with the county executive, the mayor, the council president, Jake Day, which I believe you had on your show last week, to talk about this issue, because we need, our first priority here at the university is student safety. I'm very concerned with the idea that there's going to be reduced wait times or increased wait times, especially, several years ago, we actually donated $200,000 to the city to help fund the purchase of a new fire truck. So we've been a great partner with the city in respect to fire service, and this back and forth, it really concerns me. So I've been working very hard with the mayor and the county executive. And the county executive assured me that should there be a drawback in services, and as you alluded to earlier, we're not exactly sure if that's even possible under the city charter. But the county executive has assured me that there will not be an increase in wait time, and that he'll pull resources from the outlying the fire departments to make sure that the university is not affected. And I appreciate his support, and he gave me his word, so I'm going to hold him to it. But as far as the city is concerned, Council President Day said that in order for there to be a reduction in services in the fire service district, it would have to be approved by council, which he's not willing to support. So while there's a lot of back and forth, our first priority is student safety, and I believe that County Executive Culver is going to be good and true to his word and make sure that students are not affected.
You mentioned the $200,000 toward a new fire truck some years ago. What else has the school done to try to foster a positive relationship between the university and emergency services in the city?
Absolutely. Well, our Chief Lashley, Chief of Salisbury University Police Department, has an excellent relationship with Chief Duncan and with Sheriff Lewis, and they collaborate on a number of issues here locally, on drug issues, on all kinds of stuff. And so those relationships are very, very positive. The administration's relationship with Chief Hoppus has been very, very strong in the years past, and we continue to do things collaboratively to ensure that not only our students are protected, but our surrounding community benefits as well from our presence here, and ensuring that those emergency services are provided for as well.
Can you tell me if has there been any concern from parents regarding the fire service issue?
We actually have not heard anything as of yet from any parents. But I imagine as conversations progress over the summer and as that July 1st deadline hits, if the mayor is pushing for a reduction of services, I imagine that we are going to hear some concerns.
Finally, can you talk a bit about anything going on over the summer that students can expect to see differently when they return?
Certainly.
For the next
Certainly.
semester?
In case students haven't realized, we're building a gigantic academic commons, and we're very, very excited about that. The estimated completion date is summer of 2016. And so while they'll be coming back in fall of 2015, it will not be completed, but the exterior will be completed of that facility. The other thing is the Seagull Stadium, which we're very, very excited about. That's estimated completion of winter of 2016. And specifically over the summer, we're going to begin construction on a new tennis facility over on East Campus. So we're excited about that. There's some other things, around campus that we're working on, some minor, buildings, facilities renewal projects that we've got going on. But we're hoping that, these construction projects really add to the value of the university once they're finished. Unfortunately, they're not going to be finished for about a year or so. But we're really looking forward to adding those facilities online here at the university.
Something new that I know will take place next semester, and I'm not sure you can talk on this, is that in previous years it was mandatory to get the TB test before starting here, but there was no, if you didn't get that test, there were no repercussions, there were no consequences. You could still sign up for classes and go about your business. To my understanding, that will change. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. So because of the 3 tuberculosis cases that we had, we mandated that students, in order to register for courses in the fall, had to get a tuberculosis test. And really, I mean, it's like I said earlier, student safety is our #1 priority. We need to make sure that students aren't infected if they did come into contact with the individuals who were infected, and we need to make sure that people are healthy and safe. There was an issue. There's a measles outbreak, in some college campuses across the nation as well. So we've had conversations about, well, so should we require measles testing as well, or ensuring vaccines for that. So that's been a regular conversation at our administrative meetings to make sure that we're ensuring student safety and addressing those issues as they come up.
My last question goes back to your earlier point about sexual assault on college campuses and the new House bill, I believe 571, that we've seen go through the Maryland legislature. Can you walk me through the process at Salisbury University if a student comes to the university or comes to University Police, or even comes to Salisbury City Police or the Wacomico County Sheriff with a complaint or charges that another student has been involved in
Absolutely. So last year, the president made the decision to beef up our diversity office and establish the Office of Institutional Equity, Diversity, Fair Practices, and Inclusion. And that serves as the point of contact for all concerns related to sexual assault on campus. So if a sexual assault is reported on campus, it's immediately brought to the attention of Mr. Humberto Aristizabal, who's our Title IX coordinator here at the university, and he's also the associate vice president of that office. And then it's walked through this investigation process, and of course collaborating with various agencies locally that are relevant. If it happens off campus, on campus, of course SUPD is involved, but if it's off campus, if it's in the city or in the county, they work very closely with them as well. And because of the increased awareness over the past several years, our reported sexual assaults have been increasing. Which, because of the awareness, it's a positive thing. I'm glad that the students and the campus community feel like they have a person that they can come talk to about these issues. Now, the specifics of House Bill 571 require that we institute a campus climate survey. Which actually Salisbury University is the first institution in the state to actually begin the process. In the fall, we expect to have a campus climate survey, and then also pursue memoranda of understanding with law enforcement agencies locally and rape crisis centers. So we're actually in the process of doing that. So I was very happy that I was able to report to legislators as we had these conversations that we're already in the process of doing a number of those things, and I really need to credit the president for her establishment of this office and the initiatives that they're undertaking to address this issue.
But and specifically when it comes to the university, though, if there's a case that comes, is it automatically reported to SUPD and or the Salisbury?
So we don't have a mandatory reporting process, and that was actually a proposal in the legislature this year. We believe that reporting should be in the hands of the victim. If they want to report and go through the process of talking to the police agencies, it's their decision. We don't want to take the right away from them.
So and as it stands now, does it go to some type of committee or board within the school? Is that
my understanding, and I could be wrong, is that it goes directly to the Office of Institutional Equity and works with the investigators over there. So to my knowledge, there is not a committee per se on the initial complaint that comes to our attention. So.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Robby? Anything else you want students to know?
I think you're doing a great job, Eli. You're doing an excellent job. I love SUTV and all the work that you're doing in this community. It's been great to work with you.
All right.
So
well, thank you so much
absolutely.
for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.
Yep.